Hi there, and welcome to Enterprise AI Defenders, a show that highlights how enterprise security leaders are using innovative technologies to stop the most sophisticated cyber attacks. In each episode, Fortune 500 CISOs share how AI has changed the threat landscape, real-world examples of modern attacks, and the role AI will play in the future of cybersecurity. I'm Evan Reiser, the founder and CEO of Abnormal AI.
And I'm Mike Britton, the CIO of Abnormal AI. Today on the show, we're bringing you a conversation with Micah Czigan, Chief Information Security Officer at Georgetown University. Georgetown is a top-tier R1 university with over $200 million in annual research activity spanning cybersecurity, biomedicine, linguistics, and more. There were three interesting things that stood out to me in the conversation with Micah. First, Micah explained that securing a university is unlike any other environment. His team must protect sensitive research while preserving academic freedom. By partnering with cybersecurity professors, they're proving that security and innovation can coexist. Second, Georgetown takes a measured approach to AI. Micah's team built early governance, piloted Gemini in secure environments, and created a custom model to match researchers with grants. And finally, Micah warned that AI-powered phishing is already here and highly effective. His team has seen attacks that are high volume, targeted, and realistic. His advice to keep pace with adversaries? You need AI defending against AI.
Well, Micah, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. I know Mike Britton and I were really looking forward to this episode. Maybe to start, do you mind giving our audience a bit of kind of a brief background about yourself and maybe share a little bit about your current role at Georgetown?
Well, I'm Micah Czigan. I'm the current Chief Information Security Officer for all the global campuses at Georgetown. I've been there just over 5 years. This is my first part of my career in higher education. I've spent almost 20 years in federal government, a mix of active duty in the U.S. Navy, and then I spent some time with Department of Defense, Department of Energy. So this is a very different role than what I was accustomed to.
I'd love to just kind of maybe hear some of the exciting AI-driven initiatives happening across Georgetown, whether, as you talked about, in research or operations or education, and maybe what are some of the security challenges with diving headfirst into AI at Georgetown?
So we started early on with saying, let's write a policy, even if it's not, the best policy in the world. Let's at least give some guidelines for groups of people. So one is the educational side. The other is the corporate side. So the business of the university. And those are two separate sets of guidelines. Because they have really two kind of end goals that they're working toward. Part of the big, the big push we did is like use cases. Don't come with a shiny thing, come with a use case, intended outcome. And so what we've seen is like everybody wants the, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, whatever. And so we've done some pilots, evaluations on that just in general, right? And that has been very helpful. We've worked closely. We have a close relationship with Google. So we've done a lot of work on figuring out what are the benefits, what are the risks and the drawbacks of using Gemini. And the university as a whole hasn't made a total decision yet, but at some point we'll get to an enterprise where we'll say, okay, so this is the enterprise chat, right? Whatever that is. One of the key things to do that is like we will have our own enclave. So that allows us to allow groups like finance to upload financial data, investment data, all that kind of stuff, but it stays within our environment. And yet it still allows, the AI to learn from that, but yet not go, that data is secure. So thinking on the instructional side, where that they can teach students how to properly use the chat interface to ask the right questions, right? Prompt engineering kind of things, how to load the data, how, what's important, and, how to properly utilize that in not just your education, but then for the future, for your job. one of the key things we've keyed in on those kind of things is don't trust the results, right? So if it gives you back a number, like double check the math, and that we're ensuring that people are looking at the links. Oh, how did the AI, what documents did it reference? How did it do that? Is that a valid reference? So does that make sense? And instead of just trusting it. So outside of the chat side, we have two research projects. One is related to that we're doing internally within IT and security, which is we're building an LLM that will. The goal is we would have it build profiles on researchers. So we take all of your research data, your books, your papers, everything you've produced, and it builds this profile on you. And then it goes out and finds grants that are likely to be related to your specific research area, and then presents you with those grants, which we're hoping will save the researchers tons of time, because that is a major hurdle for them. It also will do things like, okay, well, this grant is CUI data, and so it's going to require CMMC level 2. Well, we don't have it in that environment, so we're not even going to give it to you. Or so it's pulling out those data requirements as part of that look. The other is an institution, one of our institutions called the Massive Data Institute. They're looking at, can we build our own AI for our research purposes that when we can allow researchers to use for our own purposes internally. So that is not completely launched yet, but they are working in that direction.
What do you see kind of coming down the pipe from a threat landscape perspective that you'd want your peers to be a little more aware of than they might, or that maybe you think your peers are underestimating a little bit?
Well, hopefully they don't, but the number one threat vector is email. It's phishing, right? That's where the vast majority of attacks come from, and how the attackers get that initial hook in is through email. And so what we have seen is that's where we've seen the most amount of what we're seeing as AI is through phishing attacks, becoming much more sophisticated, much more relational. So it's not just this, the email doesn't look like a blast. It looks like they're targeting Evan directly. Like they know this AI's built this profile, and it's using things that it knows are likely to get your attention for you specifically. We've seen those emails. And so that's where we're focusing. And that's where we're talking with my peers. They're also focusing their efforts on, how do I shore up email security? I think the other area is in the noise. So, we're all trying to get rid of the noise of, people scanning our ports, scanning our traffic, looking for probing, right? But when does the probing become not probing? When is it, okay, that's an AI because it's probing and it's found something, and then, 5 milliseconds later, it launches the attack, right? That's faster than humans can do. And so that's where we're putting some emphasis and look at, can we look at the noise that we normally just get rid of to say, oh, does this look like it might be AI related? And the only way to do that is using our own AI, right? Using our own tools, AIs, to do that. So that's where I think that I would definitely encourage my peers to take a look at.
What do you think people might be underestimating a little bit? Like everyone's taking ethics seriously, but not everyone has probably the same calibration of what's most important.
Well, so one of the first things that came to my head is deepfake, and that as people are using AI in their research, that they might put a little bit too much trust in whatever AI they're using, in that if that AI becomes compromised, how would you know? And it may be able to feed you back what you anticipate you're going to get, and it looks legitimate, but it's not, right? And that, so if you're using AI to write code for your research, like sometimes, I've done it before. Like, look, I want to write a firewall rule, right? Go write me a firewall rule. And sometimes they're really complicated. Or write me a YARA rule. And I get halfway down, I'm like, man, this is really complex. Like, I don't know if this is legit or not. Like, I have no idea. And, thankfully I have engineers who can figure that out, but it takes them a long time. So I think, areas of caution are making sure we don't trust the AI too much, that we're validating and looking for responses that can point to, well, this may be an AI on the back end that's compromised, a compromised AI that's feeding me bad data, bad information, right? Or sending me somewhere, even if like, oh, well, here's the link to how I got this. I click on the link, it's a malicious link, right? So we want to make sure all of those little checks. I think it's going to be those little areas that we're not paying attention to.
So what are you guys doing at Georgetown to try to stay ahead of those risks?
So you attacking it from different angles. One is the governance side, making sure we know what AI is being used for what purposes. That's been checked, validated, and audited, and then looking at tools that can sit in the middle and are looking for responses or information that it recognizes as not just AI generated but AI malicious, right? And some of these tools are, obviously they're using AI, so it's AI against AI, and it said, okay, well, I know what you asked for, and I'm looking at those responses coming back, and so it's playing that man in the middle and checking all those links. Are those valid links? Are those malicious links? Yep, nope, those are fine. They're good. And it's letting that then through. Looking at the data. So you get back this, CSV file. Well, is there malicious data in that CSV, like somehow in that CSV file? It's checking that and validating that. I saw one, maybe last year, the company that claimed they could do this, but I don't think it really panned out. I think this would be great. It's basically, it's more than a man in the middle. It's actually playing an interface between you and other AIs. So you're asking it's asking the AI, is then taking those results and checking those, double checking them before it gives you back the results. Turned out to me not to be legit, but like, I think that's what I'm looking for. That's my unicorn. I want that.
And is there concern, because I hear a lot of my peers in the corporate world talk about the concern of shadow and unapproved AI. How does that work out at Georgetown, and how do you kind of keep your hands around that?
Yeah, very true. I was just in a conversation like this earlier this afternoon, and one of my peers brought that up, shadow AI. And I was talking to a student. I don't usually talk to students, but this morning I had a meeting with a student, and that's what he was talking about, is shadow AI. And so, we are one, the governance side, making sure that applications in the enterprise environment, they're there. So we scan for them all the time. Like, we look at traffic, or do we see traffic coming from applications that are not approved, including AIs. Then for more of the educational side, it's educating them, students, faculty, like, look, like, we're here to help you. And so if shadow IT, shadow AI comes about because people don't feel like they have an easy path to yes. And so we're trying to make that not just a rubber stamp, but that it's very clear how you get to yes, that we don't make it overly difficult, overly cumbersome for people to submit these requests, and that we're reviewing them in a very quick but judicious manner and giving them feedback. Like, not just no, but okay, here might be your path to yes. And we don't think this is a good product because it's developed in a country that we don't trust, but we did some legwork and maybe this might meet your needs. Might not be 100%, but it might be 80%. And so we're trying to partner with them to work on how do we get from 80 to 95% solution. And that has proved to be not just in the AI, but IT world successful, because nobody likes to be told no with no, like, well, okay, what do I do now? Well, there's nothing you can do. I'm the dictator. I'm the office of no. I tell you what's good and what's not. Everybody, they want, well, I want to file an appeal. So we're trying to help them so they don't feel like they don't have a path.
Do you feel like AI might, I guess, on two sides of the coin here? One, with the rise and speed of threats, an annual or static training is probably not sufficient these days. And then on the flip side of that, is there potential use cases of AI to make training a little bit more personalized, relevant in real time?
Yeah. So when I say intertraining, I mean like we actually do the whole year. So it's not once in October and you're done. So it's like we say like we keep adding trainings and saying like you have to take these and they're short. They're like, I don't know, 5 minutes, right? We don't want the whole boring, government training that nobody wants to do. And so we will, as we see trends coming, we will add trainings that are based on the trends that we're seeing. So we just added a couple, and you have some options, some choices for AI. How do we better look at emails coming in as an individual to say, are these AI generated? Do I need to be concerned? Or what are the things I should look for? Like it's a little too personal. Do I really know this person? And then what we're also doing is working to link the threats that we see coming to people in emails, what they're building this profile on them, and what they're clicking on and saying, I think this is legitimate, I think this is not. And then providing that training based upon what we're seeing as a profile, as you, what's coming to you, because that's going to be different than what Evan is seeing and what he's clicking on, and what's important to him. And so we're trying to make that very individualized.
What other areas in cyber, like maybe technologies or areas in cyber, do you feel are ripe for disruption and ripe for leveraging AI to kind of maybe rethink or better execute on some of these types of technologies?
Well, going even further, like and I don't even know like this is possible, right? But like we have what we call evaluator targets. Some people are definitely have access to more sensitive data. Our finance people, the president's office, people who can make decisions and write a check that is disastrous, right? Or something like that. And so building that profile on them, not just on email, but their web habits, right? Where are they going? And so it might be okay for you, Evan, to go to these sites, right? It might be all right. But one of the things we were talking about is like Mike is part of our police department. So we really want to protect them. Like and even probably draconian protect them. But still they got to be able to do their jobs. And so we want to build that whole holistic network profile, computer profile, email profile. And that's all going to be like, we don't have the people to do that. We wouldn't even know how to do that. If I have 1,000 people, I can't do that. But AI can do that. Right. And so then as it's looking at the incoming traffic, it's evaluating, is this dangerous, not just for or okay for Georgetown? Is this okay for Mike as a police officer at Georgetown who also has children, right? I know that kind of gets a little, some people are like, that was a little creepy, man. Like now you know too much about me. But that helps. And if we can keep that AI contained within our enclave, like, I mean, I don't have any access to that data. I don't really care. And there's no way I can do it. I can't ask the AI, tell me about Mike. But it's building that profile around you and keeping you safe from yourself and from others based upon your profile. That I think is where AI can really be powerful, super powerful. So when I was at the Pentagon, I was working with the Defense Intelligence Agency on is there a way in which we can better evaluate people for security clearances? It's always been a problem. And it takes forever to get a security clearance, right? And so they were like, what if we throw 100 psychologists in a room and they build profiles on people? I'm like, that's the dumbest idea in the world. Now, we didn't have AI back then to that level we have today, But that's really what you want to do, is you want to throw like an AI and build that profile that continually evaluates Mike as a government employee. Like, what are the risks and what access to data? Can I give him top secret? Can I give him stupid top secret? Can I give him the location of the aliens? Is that okay? Is he at risk? Where are we seeing it? Looking at the communications, because we cannot do that as humans, but the AI can. And I think I know it's scary for a lot of people. They're like, oh, it's going to like, now it's building this thing. And I don't know. What if he gets it wrong? And that's true. What if he gets it wrong? That's where we on the cyber side have to make sure that it doesn't get wrong. What are the protections in place that it doesn't go off the rails? But I think that's where we're going to get there. And then the more we resist at doing that, the further we're going to be behind the curve, because the adversaries are not like they're like, yep, we're going to do it. They're out there. They don't care. They'll break the eggs because they want to, and they're already out there. And so I don't think we don't have the luxury of sitting back and being cautious. We have to be bleeding edge.
To what extent do you think the criminals are adopting AI faster than the good guys, right? The defenders, and like, based on that, like, what do we need to be doing differently?
Well, so they're trying anything and everything, right? They don't care. They're not doing supply chain risk management, right? And I am every day, right? That's part of our job. It's a good thing. We have to do that. But the adversaries are not. They're just like, okay, great. We're going to do ChatGPT. We're going to do Gemini. We're going to do Copilot. We're going to do them all. We're going to build a llama. We're going to do all these things. And we're just going to throw everything at the people we're trying to get. Because if we throw 100, we might get one. That's all I need is one, right? So that's where we've got to think. This has been true for decades. We have to think like the enemy. We have to understand our enemy. What is in their minds? What are their tactics? What are their techniques? What are their procedures? We build those profiles, and then we start. I mean, that's threat hunting, right? What are the TTPs I'm looking for? And know your adversaries. Who is likely to attack me? What do I need to be looking for? And then we build those models with AI to start looking for those TTPs so that we can detect them early and then say, nope, shut that off, right? And then continue to look. We can't keep just saying, well, we're just going to do whatever Microsoft does. We can't say we're going this way and then we're blinders. And I mean, we also can't look at the latest shiny thing because nobody has pocketbooks that big. But we've got to look at everything.
What is it about your experience, or what have you seen that's kind of led you to that belief? And what would what do you think maybe, to the extent you're confident in that, which I think you are, and I agree with you. Like, what do you think other people maybe are not seeing that are preventing them from having that attitude, to be willing to like really try these new technologies to make sure we don't kind of lose the arms race?
So I think part of it comes from my background in the Navy. When you're at sea, nobody's coming to your rescue. Something breaks, you got to fix it. You got to figure it out, right? And so you're going to try anything and everything. And that's part of where I learned to be, critical thinker and really just, almost that MacGyver type mindset. We can piece it together with bubblegum and shoestring, and nothing is off the table. And so I've tried to maintain. I mean, I was very effective. I had to use that a lot when I was in the military. And when I was in government, everybody's like, no, like we're a Cisco shop and everything's Cisco. Like, nothing wrong with Cisco, but they're not the end all be all for everything. And if we don't at least know what is out there, where those other technologies are, we're on with blinders. And so I've seen where I've been able to kind of move that needle a little bit and say, okay, maybe we tried this product in a different set because we want to achieve these goals, and Cisco can't, right? It's not the best. It's been very effective. But we got to be very strategic in what we're trying to achieve. I think that's where some people who are become sort of laissez-faire and we're just going to do whatever. Like, what's the goal? What's the outcome? What do I expect out of it? And what are my use cases? What problem am I trying to solve? A lot of times that's the key, is people haven't truly defined the problem they're trying to solve. And so once I've defined the problem, like, okay, now let's consider everything. What are all the options? Even the wacky, stupid stuff that like everybody was like, no. Like, yes, let's go down that road, at least spend a few brain cycles trying to break it and say, nope, that will not work. That's not for us.
What we like to do at the end of the episodes, do a bit of a lightning round. So looking for your one tweet takes on things that are probably really difficult to answer in the one tweet format. So please forgive us. Mike, you want to go first?
Sure. What one piece of advice would you give to someone stepping into their very first CISO job? Maybe something they might overestimate or underestimate about the job.
Don't take yourself too seriously. You're going to get it wrong. That's okay.
So Mike, I'm pretty impressed with just like, not just your kind of experience, but you seem very up to date on latest stuff, right? I think a lot of CISOs that I know kind of struggle a little bit to figure out how to stay on top of like the latest technology trends. I feel like there's a new AI thing every week, right? It's hard to know what's real and what's kind of BS. Like, what's your advice? Like, what's your kind of like information diets, right? Like, what will be your advice for, maybe one of your peers about how they can stay up to date on some of these technology trends?
Well, I love to read. So I'm always looking for, I've got feeds coming in, right? And so I got my daily intel ingest. What's going on? What's the current attacks? And I listen to the SANS Internet Stormcast on my, after dropping my daughter off. And so, I've got those coming in, but then like, I kind of tell my staff like, okay, so we can't know everything. So, what's important to you? Like what really gets you going in the morning? What's your love? And that might be like, dude, I love coding, right? And I love writing, scripts in Python. Great. Okay. So like you like become an expert in that and like tell me when things are happening in that world or the adjacent world. And somebody else is like, yeah, man, like I have a passion for, forensics. Like one guy is like, I love forensics. And like, okay, so like what are latest trends in forensics? And so we have this thing for kind of like sharing. We find like articles or, maybe a conference or a web conference or whatever, right? We're just always trying to share what we're seeing, what we're hearing.
On a more personal note, what's a book that you've read that's had a big impact on you and why?
Non-cyber related book, Annie Jacobson's War. It's about what would happen if we actually had a nuclear war. I worked in the Pentagon. I didn't work with nuclear weapons, but I was part of that environment. Like if that happened, we would go to remote site, all that kind of stuff. So as I'm reading the book, I'm like, holy cow, like she got it right. Like that is like spot on, exactly what would happen with the nuclear triad. So I found that to be an amazing book. It's not long. It's an easy read. She's a great writer.
What do you think is going to be true about the future of AI and cybersecurity that most of your peers would consider science fiction today?
I think that we will see it on both sides, the adversary side, the defender side, that you will not know it's an AI. It will look and feel so human that the only way you'll know is it is operating at a speed faster than is physically possible. But I think we are on that edge. We don't know it's not an AI.
I agree. And if we're not there today, it's coming tomorrow. So
it's Mike, right around the corner.
It's right around the corner. Mike, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thank you for all the great work you do. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen.
That was Micah Czigan, Chief Information Security Officer at Georgetown University. I'm Mike Britton, the CIO of Abnormal AI.
And I'm Evan Reiser, the founder and CEO of Abnormal AI. Thanks for listening to Enterprise AI Defenders. Please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Learn more about how AI is transforming cybersecurity at enterprisesoftware.blog. This show is produced by Josh Muir. See you next time.